Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It's the first big game of 2024 and everyone can enjoy this one, from Nintendo Switch owners to Xbox One, PS4 to Series S and X and PS5. Even those with an older PC and handheld consoles like the Steam Deck will have no issues running this game really well. The specs required to run at a solid 60 FPS or higher aren't too demanding. The game isn't too large either, only about 22 gigabytes on PS5. With that being said, the game still looks great, even when you compare the weakest of the bunch, the Nintendo Switch, to the more powerful PS5. I mean, the Switch version looks decent, and it's 60 frames per second, which is a rarity for Switch games. I will do a full technical review and show how the game runs on every single platform in the next few days. For now, I've been playing mostly on my PlayStation 5, and most of the footage you're gonna see is on PS5. The PS5 can run this game at 4K 120 FPS. You do need a monitor or a TV that supports 120 Hz refresh rate, otherwise the game is just gonna default to 60. There's no in-game setting to change the display or anything. It's all based on how things are set up in your console settings. I'm playing the pre-launch version and was notified by Ubisoft that the Series X currently doesn't support 120 FPS. There will be a day one patch to add the 120 FPS to Series X, so I'm really waiting until that patch releases, and then I'll do a full comparison between the Series S versus Series X versus PS5. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a 2D action-adventure platformer. Not sure if calling this two-dimensional is fair though, because the game does such a good job with its art direction and the amount of detail in the backgrounds and the environments. The transition between the 3D cutscenes and platformer gameplay is also seamless. It's some of the best I've ever seen in a game. The game's kind of like Metroid Dread and Dead Cells, but it's really got its own unique feel and gameplay style to it. As per Ubisoft, the game's main story is about 20 to 25 hours. There's also a few side quests. I think the amount of time it takes is really gonna depend on how you choose to play the game, really what difficulty settings you used. When you start a new game, there's two game modes to choose from: Explore or Guided. And don't worry, you can switch between them even after starting the game. With Explore mode, the game doesn't tell you where to go on the map. You have to figure things out for yourself. I think this adds a lot more playability and fun factor to the game. Of course, if you have no patience and desire to explore, you can go the guided mode route, and the game will basically tell you exactly where to go on the map for the next objective. I mean, it'll even tell you which doors are open with the abilities you have and which ones you just can't get through. There's 4 different difficulty settings, or you can also tweak and customize your own difficulty, and this is of course also going to influence how long it takes you to beat the game. I can see this game becoming a speedrunner's dream though. It's one of those games speedrunners are gonna love the challenge of. The progression system is simple yet deep enough. Every time you kill an enemy, you get time crystals. Spend those to buy upgrades or perks. There's 3 main upgrades: the size of the health bar, the number of potions you can carry, and the number of perks or amulets you can carry. If you find yourself struggling with a particular boss, you can go and grind more time crystals to become more powerful. Now, the enemies around the map do reset every time you save the game, kind of like a Soul-like game. The combat system is also simple yet deep. There's really one main attack button, a parry button, and a dodge button. Even with just those 3 though, you can do a lot of different moves. As you play more and more, you'll kind of learn and create your own tricks to how you approach combat. There's of course also special moves and abilities you learn as you progress through the game. The combat and movements are fun and never really get boring. There is a fair bit of enemy types as well, and that kind of adds to how you have to approach combat. There's over 65 different enemies to be exact. There's also a fair bit of different world bosses as well as mini bosses around the map. The map's really filled with secrets, and exploration is really one of the best and most engaging aspects of this game. There's also environment puzzles. You go and you have to solve them to progress. Now, the game does have a Mickey Mouse option to let you skip certain puzzles. I'm kind of against that though. It takes half of the fun out of the exploration and progression. I actually think Ubisoft added way too many Mickey Mouse and hand-holding options when it just comes down to the progression and difficulty. I get that they want to make the game more appealing and accessible to everyone, but they kind of went a little overboard here. As you progress, you do get new abilities that let you kind of pass certain areas of the map. but in a way, they can be useless if you're gonna skip through those challenging platforming sections with just assist option. The only other bad thing I will say about the game are some of the odd bugs. I encountered some strange one while fighting this mini boss. I did a special move and it kind of pushed me out of the map. I then went back into the same section and the boss pretty much disappeared. Thought I kind of missed out on everything this boss was gonna drop, but after saving at the Wak Wak tree, the section did get reset, the boss came back, but this time with a lot more backup. So at the end of the day, I got my loot. Everything else about Prince of Persia is really perfect. The performance, the gameplay, the platforming, it's really good. Now you can argue about the replayability factor. It is a single player game. I mean, there's no multiplayer aspect to this, although I think it might work in future games. Most of the replayability might just be you trying the game out at different difficulty settings, and that might get you a little bit more playtime. Now, I don't want to spoil any of the story, but I will say it's decent. I did find myself skipping most of the dialogue early on, but about 10% way into the game, things got a little interesting and I found myself actually following along. Overall, this has to be the best game Ubisoft's put out in a while. I've heard jokes about how Ubisoft ruins every franchise they touch, but here with Prince of Persia, they brought it back to life in a big way. I found myself wanting to play more and more. It's really the ultimate sign of a great game, and this game is one of the good ones. Now, I don't know if it'll win Game of the Year or anything, but I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. A must play on every platform. For the rest of the video, check out some gameplay of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown on PlayStation 5. Let me know in the comments what you think and if you'll be picking this one up. Also, which system are you getting it for?